going to be a little bit more relaxed. And what we are enjoying for breakfast this morning is our cup of warm water, lukewarm, it's hot water. We also enjoying this morning with that our fruit salad. That is our mango, our pineapple, topped with some nice cinnamon. And that's what we want to enjoy this morning. We want to be at what our seasons discussing. We are enjoying the outdoors, we are enjoying the sun of that, and we are enjoying the hotness of that, right? So we want to really today be just talking about the baby in our generation. And when we talk about the baby in our generation today, we want to really focus on listening to the womb in general, right? There's a lot that we can say about the womb. There's a lot that our generation wants to say about the womb in general. And when we discuss the womb in general, we discuss that is every one of us individually. The baby to a generation has become that a generation has accepted and has become that has questioned. And when we learn that the baby have been questioned in our generation, we learn to listen to that is the womb itself. And today I want to talk about my womb, specifically my birth womb. That is where I'm born at in South Africa, in the different family lines that I'm born from, and the requirement for generation to listen to the baby in our season. It is that many times we want to manage offices in a way that is a structured process that many owners and many people have managed for years in ways that they felt fine for them. And the generation requires that there is the baby that should be listened to. And when we say the baby that should be listened to, we remember that when a baby learns to talk, when a baby learns to do all the things that's required for a baby to learn the different in environment for the baby learn on its own independent reaction, right? And when the baby learns on its own independent reaction, the parent of the room is in the room, and the requirement of the baby is to not only listen to the parent in the room, but to listen to that the baby responds to and listens to in season. And such is our generation in general. I've mentioned what our discussion, what our seasons preparation, that sometimes we want what we want in a glass of cold or in a glass of juice, and sometimes life gives us a glass of water. And when life gives you a glass of water, you learn to listen to that life has granted you. And that is the opportunity to be part of the amazingness of mankind on earth for human beings. While we appreciate all that we are part of and all that we have been made part of, we learn to appreciate it with complete acceptance, but in a protective environment that is required for where we find ourselves at, being the baby with where we are at in our seasons. Being the baby of so many family lines, I've learned that so many people wanted to have the baby be where they wanted to have the baby be. I've learned that so many people didn't want the baby Ribea Elise to be where the baby Ribea Elise was required to be in the season. And I've learned that so many people has had the trend of killing the baby out before the baby learns that the baby is the baby in a generation. And when we say the baby in a generation, we don't speak of a child that can't walk and talk and that can't sometimes reason for themselves. But we speak of the sensitivity of the something new that I've written when I've written my song, Something New, the sensitivity of the birthness of Ribea Elise in season. It is that the womb itself for mankind explains itself. It is that the book was written that 2,000 years ago, there was mankind on earth. And today, more than 2,000 years ago, we find ourselves human beings on the same earth, in the same environment. We have learned that because the womb requires of us to respond not to that that we are unfamiliar with, but to that that is family in a generation itself. And we learn when family has to respond to that is family. Family has learned to listen to family and to the requirement of family in a generation. Our generation finds themselves wanting to explain for themselves what family looks like for them and what family means for them. And therefore, with this discussion today, I want to specifically focus on the family that is the house of Mama Anna Martha, Mama Anna Kialeenloper, Mama Anna 1969, Mama Anna Yapi, Mama Anna Sagila, Mama Anna Martha from the womb of Grandma Martha, and Mama Anna that was in Paul community of many years ago and was the mama that parented a community of family. Today we listen to a generation that doesn't only have to listen to themselves in season, but to a generation that has to listen to the one and the other in season. And I've mentioned before that being the seventh birth, baby daughter, and having to learn that the firstborn was a woman. And baby Yuna was alive until 6 months old, right? And I remember Mama Anna, with the excitement of responding to family, found herself on an earthquake road in 1969. And I remember after the apartheid years of the apartheid years, it was much challenging for Mama Anna them's household in Johannesburg and for Mama Martha, when Mama Anna them were not born then, learned that they then found themselves in a house with a family that parented them, but with a family that their mama was employed at in season. And Mama Anna had to make a firm decision to walk away from the family when Mama Anna was a little girl. And to walk away from that is someone else's requirement for Mama Anna in season. And Mama Anna did not walk out with that she forgot family. Mama Anna walked out with that she was going to be introduced to more family in a generation. And Mama Anna found herself on the Calpinia Road. And Mama Anna appreciated the journey and the education that life has educated her in the completeness of that. And in 1969, on the Tulbach-Sarun earthquake that night, Mama Anna was on her way once again to Umpijapta George in Ceres, Mama Anna's oldest brother. And while Mama Anna was on her way to Umpijapta George, Mama Anna Kifilander was on the road, and the earth was quaking for a generation of family to be introduced to family, and to educate a generation of family out of the challenge of being oppressing and depriving and abusing one another. And today in season, we find ourselves having to listen to the daughter Ribea Elise, that is the seventh birth daughter from the womb of an earthquake, from the womb of an apartheid era, from a womb that was divided for certain reason, and from a womb that represents itself in season. And while I find myself the baby, I learned that the family line of Mama Ribea Elise in season and of Mama Anna Philander is the European family line. Some of the children looks like they are Chinese family line, Brother Richard and Ricardo Blachnoot. And Brother Martin sometimes looks like a Chinese grandpapa. And the children look like they are African American from American, not America, but the Africanness in the education of the parentingness of the universe. And the mama looks like a Oprah Winfrey parenting mama in season. The children looks the one like a Brian McKnight, I always say, and the other one looks like a Boys to Men team. And the children were 4 boys and 3 daughters. And I've learned that in the birthness of that, I was born the baby of all of those educations. The baby of not only an education, but a representation on earth. A representation that is the parenting right of the parent to parent the baby, and the baby's right to be introduced to that. There is a family in a generation. The baby's right to learn that the baby is born the baby in all of those generations. And when we look at the baby in all of those generations, we learn that the parent is the parent. And the parenting right of the parent is to be respected in all of the education rooms of it. And while the universeness of it educates, Mama Anna-ness of the womb educates and parents the baby still in the season that the baby finds herself in the year 2023, where I celebrate my 40th birthday in a month from now, more than a month from now, 22nd of November. And the generation that forms part of the 100-year generation, there is a generation of more than 2,000 years ago, as explained in the books and educated in the books. A generation that has learned to listen to that is themselves in season, but now the baby is born, and now the baby's education is different. The European is directly European. The African is directly African. The Chinese parenting is directly Chinese. The American is directly American. And the baby Ribea Elise is born South African in all of those different nationalities and all of those different parentingnesses. And we've learned that in such an education requirement, that when we find ourselves having to educate on our social media pages, then we don't tell ourselves that someone else is telling the story. We tell ourselves that in the freshness of the baby, Ribea calls it as something new, in the awakeness of a season. The awakened reaction is the baby that can explain the circumstances based on the baby's root and based on where the baby's family line are born from. And the baby of that exactly becomes the parent in the room. And the baby can explain the circumstances exactly required with where the baby is born in all of the different reactions, emotions, traditions, family lines, explanations, in the womb of all of that. The baby finds itself, the baby, in the room of all of the parents today on earth. And when our generation finds themselves having to sometimes learn that baby Jesus was a baby, and some people said that someone else wanted to explain it, and that it can be explained through someone else, they try to harm the baby Jesus in the discussion of mankind. And today Ribea has learned that many people tried that with Ribea Elise. And Ribea Elise said, but I'm firmly going to explain myself and going to own my business and going to represent myself in my season. And when we are firmly required to do that, then Ribea Elise requires mankind to look at circumstances on earth and to listen to what the requirement is for a generation that are still introduced to a baby on every day, every second, in every different country and nationality that we find ourselves at. We've learned that we can sometimes make it challenging for us as mankind, and we can sometimes argue the baby away. But it's the baby's birthright to represent the baby themselves. And it's the baby's birthright to not be deprived or oppressed from where the baby are required to be at in season. While I'm in the borders of Auckland, New Zealand, where the sun begins in the season and begins for mankind on earth, in the excitement and the calmness of the education, I'm representing my voice not as South Africa. When I open the back door of our house in South Africa, and how our house was constructed and our house was changed, and the back door opens where the sun comes in from New Zealand, or when the sun moves over the earth. And I always remember how me and my mama, then we used to sit in the kitchen and we used to appreciate the sun coming in on a day. And the sun coming in from the Worcester Mountain area. And I remember while we enjoyed the sun coming in, my mama used to stay at the Boonton when they started staying in Paarl, and they used to stay by the Paarl Town Monument Mountains. And now we find ourselves in the center of Paarl. And mankind calls it Jesus be the center of the crucifixion of that. And there are sometimes, many times, managing households and wanting to abuse households in that way. And our households has been challenged by all that. It is not that I cannot say that they did not try the baby Jesus crucifixion in our house. But what I am saying is that on this amazing day, I'm still enjoying the amazingness of a bright season where the sun begins for generation and where the sun goes to educate the generation from the borders of Auckland, New Zealand. And while we are appreciating the season, Ribea Elise's requirement to a generation is to listen to the you in your season. And that is where we are at, with the baby in our seasons. Have an amazing breakfast season with us.